It's 2 a.m. at the Airport Marriott Hotel in Orlando, and small groups of singers litter the lobby, ballrooms, and anywhere else they can squeeze into. Men, women, young and old lean in close, twist their hands in eccentric ways, and jump back triumphantly as after they ring their final chords. This is the climax of a barbershop singing convention, where quartets and choruses gather to compete, but stay for this one of a kind casual singing practice called tagging. For many, tagging is their introduction to the barbershop style, and as they delve deeper into the tradition, becomes a way of honing their skills, testing out a new quartet, and bonding with other singers. Tagging is a pervasive practice within barbershop culture, a culture which is cultivated through the Society for the Preservation and Encouragement of Barbershop Quartet Singing in America, or SPAPSQA for short. Since its founding in 1938, Spepsko has asserted its authority over the barbershop singing tradition and is largely responsible for the rhetoric surrounding the practice. Although barbershop was both extemporaneously and professionally performed around the turn of the 19th century, the society adopted a model of competition that standardized a narrowed practice of the style. Barbershop scholars Lynn Abbott, Gage Averill, Richard Mook, and Liz Garnett have thoroughly established that this version of the barbershop tradition is Spepsqua's nostalgic fantasy, one created due to a sense of loss for male public space as women increasingly entered the workforce. Spepsqua's founding and activity fit easily within Svetlana Boym's definition of restorative nostalgia. The society has delineated a singular continuity with an idealized American past to white male quartets donning bow ties, boat hats, and striped suits singing on Main Street America. Nostalgia is a driving force which seeks to step outside of linear time in order to experience the past in the present. But where nostalgia may implant the perception of an idealistic past, preservation can enshrine that past as a unified truth that erases any trace of contention. Spepsqua's contest rules have become the vehicle by which the society preserves and regulates their definition of barbershop, one rooted in Victorian ideals of masculinity and uniformity. In their role as preserver, educator, music distributor, and judge of barbershop chapters and societies all over the world, they have mapped their picturesque image onto the style, excluding women and people of color both from the historic accounts and from mainstream perception. Although tagging is a pervasive practice, it has not been addressed by the core body of barbershop scholarship. I argue that Spepsqua's preservation and encouragement efforts are a type of ethnographic taxidermy that gives shape to their nostalgic fantasy. The society has cut up and stretched the skin of early barbershop practices to brandish a more pure representation. They have made a dead thing look alive. While taxidermy has the nearly limitless power to recreate life, it equally has the power to create monstrosity. In this paper, I explore how this taxidermic process is both reinforced and disrupted by the act of tagging. Tagging is a haunting spirit, a persistent reminder of the voices that have been silenced and excluded from Spepsqua's narrative. I draw from the interviews with barbershoppers and non barbershoppers alike, and my own experience as a barbershop singer and chorus director. I've sung barbershop for 5 years, during which time I've performed and competed with multiple quartets, conducted two choruses, and facilitated tagging for beginners in various venues. The majority of my interlocutors are in my immediate barbershop and musicological communities, and all have either been taught by me, sung with me, or both. There are two distinct time periods of the barbershop singing tradition that are often conflated in the musical community, but that are central to the taxidermic process. The first period, generally from the 1860s through the 1930s, includes the earliest iterations of the style, as well as the golden era, when barbershop quartets became synonymous with vaudeville shows and could be heard on the radio, early recordings, and the concert stage. Abbott and Averill have rooted the tradition during this time within the African American community, citing Black owned barbershops serving white patrons as a major transmission site for the style. Both Black and white quartets headlined shows and concerts and could be heard on the earliest recordings, but white quartets still saw significantly more financial success. During this time, the barbershop style wasn't very restrictive and could include some of the following characteristics: call and response style, echoes, a first or second tenor lead, a solo break, secondary dominant progressions, and minimal or no accompaniment. We also know from early accounts that the style was highly improvisatory in nature and was practiced in public community spaces, including but not limited to barbershops, bar halls, and street corners. As vaudeville dwindled, so too did barbershop quartet performances, and the tradition saw a split into two subgenres separated by race. This split marked the death of the early barbershop style, which Spepsqua has revived as a nostalgic artifice. Around the same time, the style continued in and was transformed by the African American community through vocal groups like the Mills Brothers, who spawned the early doo-wop tradition. Doo-wop gained crossover popularity through the 1940s and 50s, but was separated from the barbershop tradition both by racist music industry labels and by the society's systematic exclusion of the Black community. It is imperative to differentiate between the tradition as sung in its earliest amateur form and the tradition as sung later through the society. Spepsqua now defines barbershop as a style of unaccompanied vocal music characterized by consonant four-part chords for every melody note in a primarily homorhythmic texture. The melody is consistently sung by the lead, the tenor harmonizes above the melody, the bass sings the lowest harmonizing notes, and the baritone completes the chord. In her seminal work, The British Barbershopper, Liz Garnett asks this deceptively simple question of modern barbershop societies. What are we preserving? In 1956, Quartet champions the Buffalo Bills performed in the film The Music Man and imprinted a wholesale picture of a crooning quartet in small town America that has persisted into the present in Disney's Dapper Dans, Jimmy Fallon's Ragtime Gals, and various cartoon parodies. Each of these images is a taxidermic portrait of early barbershop, which is meant to seem more realistic, but erases the role of the African American community in the practice. Tobin Roney notes the importance of the picturesque in taxidermy as the artifice stands in for any lived experience. The picturesque in Spepsqua's images simplifies, commodifies, and prepackages a smoothed out idea of what really happened, and is fueled by ideas like vanishing races. The Spepsqua founders sought to uphold a way of public life without women or people of color that was a simpler representation of American identity that was quickly vanishing in the wake of modernity. The society foregrounded a sentimental picture of male intimacy in spaces like the saloon or the barbershop that they reconstructed as rural. They relied on Victorian ideals of character, a quality of manhood, virility, and racial superiority that was developed through competition and close contact with other white men. It is no wonder then that the spontaneity central to early barbershop and suggested by these images is generally bypassed by society members in favor of meticulous preparation for district, national, and international competitions. Garnett has detailed the ways that the society has preserved specific style markers through contest rules and judging categories. These style markers reinforce social values, which in turn circuitously determine musical standards. One of my interlocutors, an arranger for his quartet, Rooftop Records, describes these boundaries as such. Oh, this is in the rule book and you're not supposed to do that. Oh, this is not in the rule book and you're still not supposed to do that. The rulebook is the tool with which the society perfects and maintains their taxidermic creation. Spepsco was founded by a majority group that has preserved a self-interested white male style and intentionally excluded people of color and any musical styles or traits associated with their communities. In competition, the society requires a preponderance of dominant seventh chords throughout arrangements and prohibits the use of accompaniment of any kind, extended passages where the lead does not have the melody, and extensive non-homophonic singing. These stipulations carved sounds typical of early barbershop and other African American music away from the society sound. Outside of sonic components, the society specifically barred people of color from membership until 1963 and barred women from membership until 2018, although there are multiple women's barbershop societies modeled on Spepsqua. Average annual membership costs with the society alone run about $180, which does not include any costs over and above that are stipulated by this district or chapter, as well as individual course costs, including costumes, travel, and event costs. Spepskla has fashioned an idyllic past through their taxidermic representations of the early barbershop tradition, which has standardized, essentialized, and mummified it in an effort to contain it, set it apart, and market it. Tagging is a medium through which the forgotten ghosts of a past rooted in the African American community are able to sing through living participants and disrupt the taxidermic process. Avery Gordon examines hauntings as the work of the invisible, or those that are unable to be seen within abusive power structures. Voices that have been silenced and excluded produce a material effect as ghosts which demand to be heard, demand that something be done. Tagging is a collection of voices of the early African American barbershop quartets, doo-wop groups, and other voices excluded along racial, gender, and class lines. These are ghosts that tear at the well-sewn ends of the artifice from the inside out. The society, in its role as taxidermist, must decide whether to banish those ghosts or learn to listen to them and reckon with them. Tagging is a highlight at many barbershop conventions and rehearsals, and anywhere else there are willing singers, like grade school music classrooms, in the breezeway of the Florida State University College of Music, and maybe at musicology department parties. Tagging is a social activity where at least 4 singers get together to sing the final measures or the tags of barbershop tunes. Tags are typically 4 to 16 measures of the most savory, most chordy part of the song, which is customarily the very end. My first opportunity to sing barbershop came during a tag session after observing a barbershop chorus rehearsal in Tallahassee. A few members asked if I would like to sing with them, and I agreed with the caveat that I didn't know any of their tunes. All the same, one of them immediately launched into teaching each of the other 3 of us our individual parts for a 4-measure excerpt. At the end of 10 minutes, we were singing like a quartet. This is generally the experience across the board, and my colleagues and I have recreated that experience in this video. Okay. When it's sleepy time down south. Okay. When it's sleepy time down south. Beautiful, Barry. When it's sleepy time down south. When it's sleepy time down south. Okay, let's repitch and try it. When it's sleepy time down south. Yeah! Yay, we done it! Tagging is nearly always by rote, though as more members have become musically literate, many use notated excerpts on mobile apps or online, in addition to listening to the person teaching the tag. Anyone can teach a tag as long as they know the voice parts, and the more often someone tags, the higher the chance that they know at least one part to tags that are most commonly sung. So while this video is an example of one person teaching all the parts, there are many more instances of 4 people singing tags they already know. Practitioners describe tagging as a social bonding activity and 4-part harmony on the spot, or people coming together to sing for the purpose of just exploring that space with those people at that time. Almost all of my interlocutors concurred that one of the best aspects of tagging is the type of connection that is made between strangers, loved ones, beginners, and experts alike. They felt that there is an egalitarianism about it, that it is so fun to bring people into music in such an accessible way, and that it was just a natural thing to be able to bond with people. Beginners are able to quickly become teachers because the tags are so short and because they hear each voice part repeated multiple times for different learners. As the learners become teachers, they are able to instill their own experience, beliefs, and ideals into their students, which may or may not coincide with the society's ideals. There is a sense among some practitioners that the society's authority extends even into this casual practice, determining what barbershop is supposed to sound like. Or there's sometimes an anxiety that tagging does not sound like a real barbershop group. Garnett also described a common phenomenon that a person who sings barbershop is not necessarily a barbershopper. The idea being that barbershopper connotes a certain level of activity or commitment to the society. Some practitioners cling to versions of tags as sung by champion quartets, citing performances as if they were baseball games, like the Easternaires in their 1952 recording did it like this. Through these anxieties, the society is able to stave off the ever-present ghosts that speak through tagging. One of my interlocutors described her experience of this attempted banishment that perpetuates Spepsqua standards even within casual practice. At FSU, I began holding tag sessions on Friday afternoons in the breezeway between the two music buildings with the simple goal to sing. The majority of these sessions consisted of singers new to Barbershop, but one day we had the opportunity to sing with other Barbershoppers I met through Spepsqua. My interlocutor noticed increased regulation of technique and style, including singing formations and commitment to singing in the original keys that the tags were sung in, which were all male keys despite the mixed gender group. She also perceived a large change in the atmosphere, stating that there was a lot of male energy, a lot of fraternal male energy, and fratty not so much in the like douchey fratty sense, but in the like we all know each other, team bonding, bro-y sense. Despite these common experiences and anxieties, the ghostly voices remain strong, and participants consistently cite a feeling of belonging, of being in the moment, of accessibility, and of being welcomed no matter who you are. Many like the instant gratification or rapid fire nature of the experience. In one person's words, barbershop without all the work. The most special aspect for my interlocutors is the relaxed atmosphere that helps build community with friends and strangers alike. In tagging, anyone can sing with anyone. In this next video, Swedish gold medalist quartet Ringmasters sings a tag with American silver medalist mixed quartet Vintage Mix. Their age difference, gender makeup, and nationalities are irrelevant. Note the way the older quartet members lean in to encourage and support the younger singers with their parts mid-tag for a successful sing-through.
There you go. A smile is still a smile. Smile is still a smile. Come on, smile.
When the ghostly voices are listened to, tagging opens a portal through which singers can experience connection and joy and experiment with the sounds that they are making. Singers may test the very edges of their vocal ranges, switch parts with each other, or even start tag battles with other groups of singers. In these ways, tagging embodies the society's social ideals without adhering to their musical ones. They must enter into the very beginning of a conversation that pushes practitioners, particularly society members, to seek understanding of their history and reconciliation for the future. In 2004, the society changed their business name to the Barbershop Harmony Society, or BHS. By 2017, they had launched a campaign called Everyone in Harmony, which opened society membership to women and set a strategic plan in motion for creating a more inclusive and diverse community of barbershoppers. This is a lofty and well-intentioned goal, but one that will remain unattainable until the society reckons with its ghosts and tears down what has become their monstrosity. Taxidermy is thus a way to represent the dead, but is also haunted by what it forgets or erases from the lived experience. Spepsqua has used their taxidermic power to recreate their nostalgic fantasy, but is haunted by the marginalized communities it has forgotten from its history and the wider barbershop community. Tagging is the medium through which those ghosts are able to demand the attention of practitioners, pushing for something to be done, tearing open the society's taxidermic monstrosity. After 83 years, it is time for the society to let go of their nostalgic fantasy and make peace with their ghosts. Thank you.